Susie Cloud.
All right. Well, I got an update from Terry today, so I think I'm going to go ahead and start us off.
Okay.
Just by letting you know that she is going to talk to Executive Sinew tomorrow for us. And since we have not heard anything back from him, and also she is coordinating with Mike in order to have a meeting between him and John Hutchings and herself. And she says she's really going to be pushing to get stuff moving forward before Mike retires. So thanks for her push on that and help with that. And then she also suggested that we just go ahead and email John Hutchings what we've done as well, and let him know that Mike suggested that they have a meeting about it as well. And so that's what I will do tonight when I get home, or first thing tomorrow morning. So that's the only update I have on my end. Lane, I saw that you've done a bunch of work once again. Thank you so much. And we'll look forward to discussing that.
Let me just clarify. You said the first meeting that Terry was working on was specifically with Parks and Rec, with Mike and her and us, and whom else?
And John Hutchings.
And John Hutchings. Okay.
Yeah, Director of Public Works.
Got it. So then, so she's gonna be coordinating that, but having us contact John and say, here's what we're kind of where we are with it. Was that her?
Did you hear that? Yeah. I'm having a hard time hearing you. My wife might have to interpret for me if you were asking me something.
Okay. So the committee will follow up with John Hutchings beforehand to say, here's where we are with it. Was that what Terry was saying?
Following up with John Hutchings. The committee's going to follow up with John Hutchings to find out what happened to Terry.
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks, Tammy.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, great. Let's see. Yes, I did have some things. So, but before we go into that, anybody else have any updates?
I just had a question. Do we want to still keep the signage out? And do I still need the survey on the website?
We hit 200. So if people consider that kind of a target, I know Greg Hall considered that a target. And
Yeah, I just haven't seen any much coming in lately.
No, I haven't gotten any.
There's a few more at the store today.
Were there just 3, Nick?
No, there is 7 maybe.
Okay, so when I last saw it, there were 3. So there have been a few more.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So what do people think?
I think if it goes much more, it's going to be kind of like oversaturated. Yeah.
That's kind of what I think. I think we should just go ahead and take it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just say thank you for everybody that participated. We received 200 and whatever responses, and we will be presenting results soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or we could even put results up, just like at least we could give the percentages and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. That would be cool. I was just wondering, I thought, because when something stays in the landscape too long, it just sort of blurs.
Yeah.
And I think we're maybe to that point.
Yeah.
So even if we just take it down and then we can later on put it up again if we want. But I thought I would, I was looking at it last night when I was working on the website, and I thought it might be good to take it down at this point and then write a little post that, here's the results. Thank you ever so much, like you say. And maybe if we can talk about an upcoming town hall again or something,
Mm-hmm.
or, a little blip, soundbite on what we're currently up to flesh out the post a little bit more. Anyway, so that was my question.
Yeah, it might be interesting to post the results, and then, as you said, Alan, maybe we set up another town hall or whatever, however we want to do it.
Mhm.
If we'd like to hear how you feel about these responses, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
if you agree or disagree, here's your opportunity to weigh in.
Yeah, it's just like on YouTube. You always want to say, oh, comment below. You know, it helps it keep moving in people's minds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it would be real good and transparent of us to especially thank the people that took the time to provide written comments,
Mhm.
and to maybe acknowledge at the town hall, we will be discussing, the written comments, or to watch, and we'd like to share those with people. And because I think that's part of just being really transparent.
Mhm.
And responsive, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's exactly what we're doing. So yeah,
Yep.
might as well publicize it.
Yeah. The more we can do of that, the better.
So
The only one more. Sorry, just on. I see you're logging in a fair amount, Lane. Is there a reason that you're doing that, or just to see things that other people can't see, or?
only because I feel like I should do it on occasion. I'm not usually doing anything different. I just know
Okay.
it says if
Okay.
you yet to the time you should sign in, and so on
Okay.
occasion I do that just to show that
Yeah.
I'm alive.
I appreciate that. It's nice to see that the work is getting used.
Yeah, I try to go to different areas that I haven't seen yet. Yeah.
I
So
have
you
a,
want,
whoops.
sorry, I mean, we're working on the FAQs. We
Mhm.
can, I don't know if you want to wait. I mean, we could just post comments right now, but I think we might, I think it'd be better to post comments when we also have some reasonable
Responses.
Yeah. I had an interesting thought because I mean, one of the reasons I was asking about your signing in is I can put the FAQ section on the website, and you actually have the ability to edit those directly.
Okay.
Once I create the section for
Okay,
this.
here. Yes.
But I was thinking that a good way to maybe approach it is to have the FAQ question, and then it will expand, and you can have there, here's the comment that prompted this answer. Here's the question that sort of birthed this FAQ line, this particular question, and then here's our answer. So that people can also see that we're directly engaged and responding to those comments. Of course, we can sanitize
I
them.
did for
This, yes.
Yeah.
For the survey, the outage survey thing.
Well, no, for the first the comments from Ed.
Oh yeah. But for the
that was
FAQ,
kind of question and then answer right underneath it.
Yeah, give and take. So we could have a summary heading that's the FAQ question, and then here's what prompted it. Here's the response, so they can see the whole package together.
Mhm.
Yeah, because some of them were sort of, I mean, I don't want to say generalized. Some of them were fairly non-descriptive, and others gave super specific examples. And I do think, what we'll try to do, I looked up some examples of FAQs and guidance suggestions and such, and they were saying, have the briefest possible question as the
lead in.
Right?
Yeah.
But then give that sense of where that came from or people's specific concerns. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, there's a section on the website that you can actually look at on how the FAQ system that we have works. And it's under community, and it says, amazingly enough, frequently asked questions.
Yes. Yeah.
But we have a lot of power in there You can have photos, you can have all sorts of stuff in those answers.
Okay, excellent. Okay.
So I'll be setting up a separate section for just the public doc FAQs.
I have something that happened last week that I wanted to share with everybody. I don't know if this will be an appropriate time. Can I just interject something in?
You bet.
And it can go into the minutes. I received an inquiry from Rich Hudson, who's the captain and the kind of the chief of operator, the chief person for the ferry.
Master.
Yeah, master, the master. And anyway, he requested the ferry impact study questions. And so I sent him the Excel document, and he informed me that they were attaching that and mailing it in with the RAISE grant request.
Ooh.
So that's mailed, they're using that as partially in support of, showing that how it impacts the community. So at least the county is now kind of aware of it. And so I thought that was awesome that they were putting that info in with a grant request. So, yay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I think that we're going to, as we do more of this stuff on the island, whether it's, whether it's for the ferry outages or for the public dock, as more we do this kind of work, I think the county is going to probably recognize us and the actions more and more over time.
Mhm.
So
Hopefully in a good
anyway,
way.
yeah, no, and I thought that was a good way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I happened to be outside when Rich drove by and saw Mary walking her dog and stopped to thank her. And I thought that was a really nice exchange, Mary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good
Yeah.
connection there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
At least we're getting noticed. Right?
mhm. Yeah, and they are taking it seriously. And I've spoke to Rich, just on a one-on-one when I was starting to, do this and gather information. And I just said, I really think that the main reason that we're putting this out and trying to gather it is because the community never really has been able to document exactly what the impacts are. And now that we have a way to do it, I think it's an important thing. So, and I'm glad that, he's taking it in that vein. It's not, and I think some islanders, just reading some of the survey results, people think that we're trying to just, run down the ferry, or we don't like the ferry or something, man. Yeah. So anyway.
Speaking of which, the Life Act meeting is next weekend, isn't it? Should one of us update the committee on the meeting with the commissioners? Tell them what we're doing next.
That would be good. Even if it's just,
not this
even if
week,
just,
it's the following week.
even if it's just an email.
I think it's nice because I think that Raina asked a question about plans for getting more public input. And I sent her that, the page basically from the PowerPoint presentation that says, well, here's what we're working on, But I think that to reinforce that with them, because they, for two reasons. One is obviously it's a ferry impact, but it also kind of, we are a kind of corollary committee that hopefully we will be working closely with them. So I thought maybe an official, I don't say official, but just on the, before were we all actually on the agenda?
Yeah, and I think what we could do is just, they have a whole, they have a pretty full agenda, I think,
Yeah.
this month. But I think they're gonna allow like public comment, and we
Yes.
could put it up at the public comment time.
Mhm.
And I think just if we could just write a little short blurb, and I would share the survey results. That, you know, we've completed an initial survey and this is what the results were.
Mhm.
I think we could share that. And I am also going to provide the committee with an updated ferry impact report, because we've had about another 20 things come in since the original impact report that I gave to them before. So I'm going to provide another one that is updated through the 30th of March, which is like the first quarter. And I think maybe that's probably a good way to do it, is just rather than doing it each month, just do it quarterly.
Mhm.
Oh, I see. Uh-huh.
So I will submit that. I've got the data and I'm just tweaking around to get it so it looks a little bit better. So, because that one includes the impact from the March 8th one, and we got a lot of comments on that one.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'll be putting that one together for LifeVac, and so if you want to do, or you know, and I could present that one too. I could present the survey results too, or if Lane or somebody else wanted to.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the pie chart is kind of nice. You can just do a quick
Mhm.
Mhm.
pie chart and show. I'll update that, and then I just think to say, be watching for announcements over the next couple of months. We'll be doing outreach and workshops, and
Mhm.
just
Yep.
hey, not just actually in person. And but that's good if it's not for another week after that. Then if we just who is the chairperson now?
The new chairperson is Chris Colburn. He lives on the mainland.
Okay.
And I have an email address for him. If you just ask me, I can forward it to you.
Well, is
Yeah.
this one you go on the website and just send it to everybody? Or?
Yeah, you can do it that way too. But if
Okay,
you
well-
wanted to like ask, you know, and I think it would be appropriate just to say that, you know, we'd like to just take a minute or two, and they're really going to work on limiting public comments to 3 minutes at max.
Oh,
So,
no. Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Lane to send, so I can do that later, end of this week.
Mhm.
Yeah, the LifeVac page has the updated names of all the people that are on the committee.
Okay. Cool.
And there's a link on the community website that takes you to that page
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
if you don't have it.
I have seen that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Any other updates I should grab here? People saw the results. We have basically so out of 200, 187 are yes. 13 are either voted no, or what they asked about. I realized I think they're a no, or at least a maybe. They certainly were not. I did not believe they were a yes. So that's 90, still 96%.
Did we get any clear maybe type answers?
You know, next time we'll ask the undecided, or you know, this time we wanted to be careful with it.
Yeah.
But I personally, I mean, when we say this is a public dock and it's for urgent access, and they say yes, I want a public dock as long as it's not for public use.
Yeah.
And you think I bet
That's a no.
at best case that's a maybe. So
Yes.
those were the ones that what they asked for. I thought, well, that was just not achievable. So okay, cool. Let's see. So shall I go ahead and just speak about this sub area plan that I put in the email to you guys?
Hmm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Honestly, I found it through sheer chance alone, because my husband and I are working with the fire department. We'll be working with the evacuation team to work on mapping, because that's something we did in our search and rescue experience. We drew the maps specifically for fire evacuation and tracking people. So the pre-map, the where is everybody, we've been working on. And I had no idea that I could almost throw a rock and hit it a little past me, actually just south of Blizzard, up on behind Isle Air is a whole community called Hunter Park,
Mhm.
like 50 houses, but not developed. So I was trying to figure out, when is that from? And I was just searching, and I just searched for the keyword. I just searched for Hunter Park, and I landed on this sub area plan. And so, shall I go ahead and share my screen? And it is a little bit, it confused me a little bit, because the plan says that it is from 2009. However, it's actually, all the work done on it was for 2001 to 2003. So apparently there was a 20-person committee that worked
Mhm.
for several years, including
Mhm.
workshops. So is this ringing a bell for you, Mary, then?
Yes, yeah. No, I'm aware of this.
So, but what I thought was especially important for us first to acknowledge that, this boatload of work had been done, and look for any information that's helpful for us to at least know for ourselves, and potentially, certainly in our communication with the county, I think this puts us in a much better position to say, here's how people feel about development on the island.
Mhm.
But also the fact they did this survey. So since they did the survey, for heaven's sakes, I should certainly think we would boost as much of it as we could. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at it yet. It's all the way at the back.
Mhm.
So here, the problem I'm having right now, I can't quite tell yet, or maybe I just haven't come across it yet. These are percent of people who vote this way, but I can't tell how many people responded.
Mm.
So I hope it's in here somewhere, and I just haven't figured it out. So some of them are certainly about literal development, but some of them here, for example, are about road safety.
Yep.
And I thought the way they asked the questions seemed to be, they seemed to be able to present different options that were different, and mostly different enough that just one answer made sense for people.
Mhm.
It was also interesting because they asked here, what's the average number of round trips you make on the ferry as the driver of a vehicle?
Mhm.
Yeah, I thought these were really interesting questions to maybe ask again, because this is 20 years later.
Yeah.
And these percentages, I'd be very interested to see how much these percentages have changed. But and an interesting way to ask about full and part-time and such, and they did ask about demographics.
Yeah. That's a really good find.
There's a copy of it in the library.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
I tell you what, I think that beyond that,
and it's online.
Brooke told me that I suspect she has the minutes. She said that she has a bunch of minutes, but I wouldn't have known what I was looking for. So this Lummi Island Planning Committee, I think it was called, we should be able
Sub area plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I realized, because the biggest question I've always had in this whole year I've been here, right? This point I had seen about the reason we were getting the ferry that size was the anticipation was as of 2030 that we could have 3,000 people living here,
Mhm.
which I frankly, personally made me fall on the floor with, like, what? However, this planning document explains where that number came from.
Mhm.
And so it's good for us, I think, to read through it very carefully. I would be very reluctant to throw that number around. On the other hand, it is the county plan, and our dock plan will obviously be again over the next 20 years. So
Right.
I can't
Yeah.
believe they really think we're going to stay the same size.
Yeah, and what I think is interesting is thinking like, hey, that plan was, put in place in 2003. And that's a 20-year plan, and next year's 2023.
It's funny to me
And
because
I'm wondering, like, I don't know what the county currently is doing with GMA, Growth Management Act, and the county plans. And that would be an interesting thing to check out with Terry.
because it says adopted in 2009, so I just don't quite understand where the 20-year rolling mark works. But in terms of intense discussion on the island, we have arrived the 20 years later, interestingly enough, because there was a plan in 79 and then basically 99, and here we are in 20 years later, coming back and saying, what is a long-term plan for this island? And I thought that it was interesting because I think as people say, well, if you do X, this will happen. These are numbers. This is what has really happened in the past 20 years, not us worrying, if we do this, that's going to happen. This is what really has happened. So I thought it gave us a much better position to say to people, no question, these have been concerns for the island for at least 40 years.
Mhm.
And yet, while we have grown some, some of the biggest concerns people have, it does not seem like that they've come to that worst case scenario people were worried about.
So Lane, I didn't see, but who drove that study from the county?
Well, I don't quite I don't know that I can tell.
Yeah, okay. Because
In
it sounds like-
Washington State, they were doing a big revision, I think, of something called the Growth Management Act.
Mhm.
And I may be totally full of poo-poo on this, but I'm just kind of trying to remember stuff. And all of the counties were required to submit updates to that periodically. And so that's where that came from. And I think it was probably the planning, Whatcom County Planning and Development.
I see.
Would probably be I think they would probably be the driving forces on that.
You're right. Whatcom County Planning and Development Services Department. And then I'm just going to paste in the chat the what, I guess if you were going to try to reference the bigger, it was the comprehensive plan. So now we have a comprehensive open space plan. This backs up and says, okay, above and beyond that, the comprehensive plan. And apparently, at least in Lemmy Island, and I can't quite tell, I don't know about Washington State, but apparently the first one was initiated in 1979 because of concern about a lot of growth during the 70s.
Yes. And that's, I think, where that growth management stuff happened. And yeah, I moved to Washington in 1980, and that was really hot topics back then.
And they do talk about, what's interesting, they talk about having basically I don't know, I'll call it a report card of certain metrics, which are warning signs that you should stop and look at the plan again. And one of them had to do with if you started getting testing for poor water quality. But there were a couple of others. And they said, yes, we should adopt that, but I can't tell, okay, and where would you find it and who administers it so that somebody does take, I don't know, write the report card, whatever.
Well, one of the outports, I think one of the results of that plan was that because it was while I was here and kind of early in my time here, Whatcom County passed a thing that limited development to lot sizes of 5 acres minimum. except for places that already were grandfathered in. But that's when the 5-acre limitation for dividing up a lot of the big agricultural spots on the island and stuff happened in the early 2000s. That was kind of a hot topic on the island.
So I guess my question is, it seems like the value in these plans are they would be continually updated, right? Every 20 years or.
Mhm.
So it sounds like we're approaching the point where there will be a new planning process. I don't know how long that process is, but it sounds like we need to be part of that, right?
Yeah,
And it might be a great opportunity. I mean, we should contact this planning and development group, I think, and see what the process is. When does it start? And how do you get on it?
yeah. And I think
recognize-
possibly like the pandemic has probably
Oh, thrown it off.
really thrown a bunch of this crud off.
Mhm.
I think that's a total possibility.
Yeah, just,
Mary, does anybody, you were familiar with this, is anybody else familiar with it? I recognize some of the names of the participants. I would be happy to talk to some of them.
A lot of them are dead now.
Well, I saw a couple of them are still around.
Yeah, there's
They're
a few
old.
that are still around, like Rich Fry.
Yeah. Alan Sheila, Marshall, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
It'd be interesting to have a discussion there.
Yeah, nothing else for the backstory.
Yeah, exactly.
mhm,
I'd be happy to reach out to those guys and see what I can learn.
mhm. That would be
I
good.
can convince them to join our next meeting.
well, I don't know if you've gotten to this part yet, but there was funding because they used a consultant and they had actual facilitators, which is certainly a concern. I think we have public meetings
Mhm.
where we're actually coming to consensus on something. We need to have actual real facilitators, not ourselves.
Mhm.
And so that's why I thought this was such a good, the groundwork has been laid. People have done this before, at least twice. Apparently, some of the same people were on the committee who were on the 1979 committee. But I'll have to find out. I don't know how to track down the 1979 plan.
They probably have a copy of it in the
Yeah,
library,
probably, yeah. Now that I know what this is
in
called.
the archives.
Yeah.
And
And the planning committee should have it.
mhm.
And if Mary's
Yeah.
correct, it sounds like there should be some open seats on the next meeting, the next round.
Yeah.
What planning committee do you mean, Alan?
Whoever generated this, the Whatcom
Oh,
County
I get it.
Comprehensive
Summit
Plan.
County. Got it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Community
Yeah,
Development and Planning Commission.
yeah, they should have a copy of it.
Good point. Okay, some of their thing is kind of like with the tax records, assessor records. I noticed they're not all digitized yet.
Yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
but I'm sure
Okay,
there's
but I'll go.
paper or microfiche somewhere.
But I'll check in with a library and see if I can scare up the 79 one because I'd be very interested. I have a feeling that growth, people are always concerned about growth, and that's totally legitimate. But I've been surprised, decade over decade, how some of these numbers have stayed quite similar.
Yeah. Paul Davis is like the community archivist. And if you approached him, he may have that in the archives too.
Actually, I can look at that real quick.
Oh,
I have a copy of it.
okay, cool. So anyway, I just realized it would take a while for us to familiarize ourselves with this, and I thought we should probably all just kind of start.
Yeah.
And they did have a vision statement. I honestly, I do feel as if for credibility that if there are things we feel like, gosh, we really would not be able to adopt this, then explain why. But if there's things that they already did that we feel like absolutely that's still the vision, then I would suggest we try to carry it on.
Mhm.
I keep explaining to people, this is not some brand new crazy people. Just 6 of us came up with some
Oh, yeah.
manic
Yeah,
plan
no,
from
I
nowhere.
I
It's a
went
note.
through this. I went through the document pretty hard and heavy, probably about 2013. So I I was researching lighting and stuff like that.
Oh, yes,
So,
that came up, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm. So I went through the document then. It really is well written and it's a real good insight into the community.
And
Um,
another, when we talk about trying to, when we represent to the county why they should believe that, Lummi Island would be able to pull off a big project. We talked about using Aston Preserve, but this kind of thing is exactly the same. I mean, that was a 2-3 year dedication by a group of people who came up with, a really good plan that has
Mhm.
apparently been carrying us on. So,
the information is on our webpage now.
Hmm.
I just loaded that up.
Okay, the 79 one.
No, not the 79, the 2009.
Okay.
And I'm putting the links into there is a Whatcom County Comprehensive Plan webpage as well,
Mhm.
which I'm
Mhm.
linking to.
mhm.
It's got a phone number and a contact information.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And done.
Hey,
Okay, so before we get to the FAQs, I was just wondering if there were any other longer things that'll take longer for us to get into place. Anything else we should be doing in the next week or so to engage any? Oh, the businesses, Nick. I didn't know if I didn't think you'd had a chance to think about. Um,
Uh, I'm still fermenting on that.
okay.
I did have a look at what you have already put together, which looks outstanding. I just haven't had a chance to compile it all together.
Because I mean, one thing would just be to say we don't really know, and maybe let's just put together a Zoom meeting and invite people and see if we can go from there. I feel like for us to try to, I mean, we're all community members, and so all of us can say, oh, we could answer a survey. When it comes to the businesses, I just don't have I don't have the background to say, well, this is what I think you will say about it.
Mhm.
And I feel like maybe just doing an open invitation and seeing if we can just get a discussion with some of them, then that might get us more. I don't, nobody has enough time to waste on something that we could maybe just spend an hour with them and that would help launch it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it would be good to have a list of questions that we would, or a list of questions to guide them before a meeting. Like, these are the things that we've thought of that might, how a public doc might impact you
Mhm.
in a good way or a bad way. You know, um,
And we still have to get an invite out there, Nick, obviously. So,
mhm.
but I was thinking if it doesn't have to be we've already got all the questions figured out. It's just that we're trying to figure out what the questions would be. Here's some of them. And are you interested in want to join this so we can begin to figure out what's the best way to.
Ooh, just a note. That page that I was talking about, that their web page, the left sidebar menu has comprehensive plan updates. And they go back. They have staff final recommendation 2015, final recommendations January 2016, etc. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in there as well. And I called out Bellingham.
So we'll think about this for another week and see if what else we come up with. Maybe next week talk about how to
Wrap it in.
talk to business people.
Yeah, I'll kind of put some feelers out with some of the local businesses and see if anybody is opposed to doing like a joint Zoom meeting, or if they'd rather just do one-on-one.
One-on-one, that's interesting. Sure, that's good.
So yeah, I'll approach a handful of them over the next couple days and just kind of feel it out. And just I'll just come with a couple of questions too, just in case, now is the opportune moment to pick their brains and go from there.
Perfect.
And do we want to focus this on island businesses or off island businesses as well?
I've only got the bandwidth for on island
Okay.
at the moment, but maybe after we've kind of got a feel for the island and get some sort of document together or a questionnaire together, then we can send that off to
Widen it up.
widen
Okay.
the net.
Yeah.
Because we do have a good list of off-island businesses that are frequent out here.
Yep.
That it would be good to send them something that's well curtailed to the situation.
Okay. Cool. So as you saw, after I got to like the 25th question, I said, "Oh no, there's more questions." In part because I broke them down in pretty small chunks. Because, like I said, I think you need to do that. So it could be I've got repetitive ones that you guys will see. But I also thought if you could, if we can look at what groupings you think would make sense.
Yeah, can you share that on your screen?
You betcha. Let me just, 2 seconds. I've always got full screen screens. I always have to get some things to hide so I can see other stuff. Okay, so here's Word. And facts and FAQs and actions. There we are. I added a few more. I was going through some more of the survey, and I was also going back to some of the questions that were raised during the town meeting. Okay, so if there's no number next to it, it's because I added it since I sent you that.
So do we want to start crafting answers here, or are you trying
I'm
to?
just trying to say, what do you think?
Okay.
We've got to break this down. I think we'll drive ourselves nuts if we try to just go top to bottom. What do you think are the most important ones? Let's start there.
I think financial is one, because there's a lot of questions about that.
Yep.
And the whole proposed site and concerns about the site is pretty big.
Yeah.
And again, some of those hopefully are a little bit repetitive, but I realized I thought that maybe the best way, I think this is one of the questions I saw in that the area study that I realized it's probably just a good way to say it, because I think I mentioned to you guys last week that any of the grants have asked that you propose at least 2 alternatives and that you have the pros and cons. So,
like the voting pamphlets.
yeah, very similar to the to that. Yes, you're right. Okay.
I see your point on the tourism and visitors, Lane, and
Yeah.
I actually ran into somebody this week that had raised that issue with me about why do we want to have more tourists come to the island?
And that's kind of how, that's exactly what they said, wasn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And what I got thinking about there, and I don't know if there's any data on this, but it might be very interesting to see if there's, there's these county docks around the San Juans for short-term visitors, right? Like we're talking about. And I have no idea what the usage is on those docks. I think they're pretty heavily used, but I don't know if we could somehow quantify that. I don't.
That
view
would be
that
an
as-
interesting thing to look at. The ones I'm most familiar with, I think of the county docks are more used by the locals. The public, just the community docks are used probably more by locals than by visitors.
Mhm.
The state park docks, that's different. And the marina docks, that's different.
Sure, yeah.
But I think that the county docks are used more by the locals.
Yeah,
That's an interesting point, isn't it? Because everyone just assumes, well, I've seen docks out there and they were huge. Well, you're probably looking at a marina.
Yeah, a business concern, not.
And maybe, I said, is this marina? And I just said no, but maybe here, one of the questions somehow is what is the difference between a public dock and a marina? Community dock.
Marina and a state park dock as well.
Oh, I see. So those are three kind of distinct, those are the.
Yeah, because the state park is like usually overnight and,
Oh.
Yeah. And when you say community dock, are you talking about a county dock or one that's done by the community itself?
So if we said a Parks and Rec dock,
Because it might be that I don't know how Orcas Island is organized, but if they have like a chamber of commerce there or some sort of city entity or association that could do a community dock that's not county, so there's that other possibility.
well, if you think about it, we have a community dock on Lummi Island in Scenic Estates.
But it's not public.
Right, but it's a community dock. And that's what some of the community docks are, is that a group of houses has access to something.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, Mary, more of, for example, like the East Sound dock, right? I think that's a county dock, right?
Yes.
That's open to all to come in and pull in for a few hours. You can walk into East Sound. Usually those are fairly busy, but I'm just wondering if the county or the island or somebody has a rough idea of the count of visitors to those facilities, right? Because that could help us maybe kind of quantify this. I don't view this as a big problem, but many people do.
Many people do.
How do we answer it, right? So that's what got me thinking about it. If we could get some numbers to it, maybe that could be useful here.
You might want to say, and a commercial marina.
A commercial. Okay.
San Juan County should have a Parks and Recreation Department, don't they? Do we have a San Juan County contact?
Who's in charge of their Park and Rec department?
Yeah, and maybe Terry knows that person or of that person.
Well, we could just look that up on the web.
To me, this question does have obviously, I mean, every question has several levels, doesn't it?
Mhm.
One level that you'll never get past, which is people who will, and they will simply say, we don't want out.
Oh,
Can't hear
Lynn,
you.
were you losing your audio?
Oh, sorry. Is that
Yep.
better?
Yeah.
You actually went out totally. So,
Okay.
so you're good back. You're back.
Okay.
Yeah, you stopped. We don't want,
Yes, I've actually had people say literally one of the survey responses was, we don't want strangers, outsiders. I think they said outsiders.
Well, they were an outsider once.
I know. So we won't.
We all
So
were.
we need to.
unless your name is Dickinson Granger.
Well, unless you are a Lummi native, we are all outsiders.
That's right.
That's right.
So, but a person who expresses that, I don't think is someone who will be swayed by reading the FAQs. However, other folks will certainly really do want to know, and they may be using the term Marina when they just mean it, and they literally don't know the difference. So I think that where we have the pictures, this would be brilliant because we could show some pictures to help people see. And it's the same with a launch. Honestly, until you guys started talking about launching a boat is not nearly as easy as Lane I don't know. It never occurred to me that you expected a dock. I don't know. I just thought there's a truck and there's a trailer and then you float away and all's well with the world. So, so I need to be educated too. So I think that's where we want to always have the attitude that whoever's asking these questions sincerely doesn't have the experience to know these, or has never realized that there are some differences, and our job is to just be very even-handed and and I think say visitors are inevitable. That is just as today the ferry can bring across visitors.
But we have a I'm going to change cameras here. Hopefully. Yes. Okay. I mean, anytime anybody asks a question, I mean, we should always look at, even because it may be somebody that does have the knowledge and understand this stuff, but if they ask the question, it raises a flag that maybe we didn't explain. We didn't explain well enough what we meant.
Yes, exactly. And that we need to explain it to the county and to any grant, folks at some point. Why would someone know? But I think especially having some local examples, like explaining, and I do really take your point, Mary, that when you say community dock, I'll stop using the term community dock because I didn't ever occur to me that by definition that might mean community only, therefore not be public dock.
Yeah.
Okay, so some work to do on this. Let's think about responding to those.
Elaine, you made an interesting point, or I think it was you that said it. The ferry brings people across all the time, visitors, right? Well, the ferry holds 22 cars. Let's say there's 2 to 4 people there every 20 minutes in the summer. We're talking about a boat dock that might hold 4 to 6 boats with what? 2 to 4 people on it every 2 to 3 hours. So if you just play the numbers game,
there's a magnitude of difference.
Overwhelmed with crazy boat people coming to the island on this dock, right? So maybe that's another way we could frame it.
Yeah, there's a magnitude of difference there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just keep thinking people I think are seeing in their heads. I think somehow a lot of people just see a marina no matter what we say.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I was speaking with Rob, who lives 3 doors down from the Beach Store Cafe. And he was talking about a county plan that was in the works to decommission Nugent from about the ferry parking lot to just about the post office, or just around the corner from the cafe, and that they would run the new road around the back. And I thought that that was an interesting option to utilize that section of Nugent then as a pedestrian walkway, bike path. Completely eliminates the concerns of pedestrian access to that spot. I don't know if that's still a feasible option that the county is considering, or the validity of that. But if that is, that works kind of hand in hand with developing our proposed site.
Would that be on private property though?
So there would have to be an easement in there, because I think a lot of those houses, they go back, probably, well, they're, I think, about 5-acre lots, narrow and long.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Molly used to own one of the lots that was back there. I don't think she does anymore. So yeah, that would have to be purchased as an easement for a road
So
cutting through there. But I don't
Nick,
think
would
there's any
that be
development.
behind the Islander then?
Yeah. Oh no, not behind the Islander.
Or behind the library? And
No, not behind the library either. Just from
okay.
the ferry dock parking lot, where they have that joint piece of land next to the parking lot.
Cute.
Mhm.
So it'd go
So at
through
the-
there
One more, yeah.
and then north.
Mhm.
And then it would come back out onto Nugent on the other side of the Beach Store Cafe.
Hmm.
I got to fly off.
I've never heard of that one.
That's ideal, though. Nick.
That's ideal
That-
indeed.
that-
And I think the county is considering it seriously because of the undercutting that's happening on Nugent there up against the
Yes.
bank.
Yeah.
And I don't think they would have any means of repairing that as it gets undercut. So rather than wasting money on it, I think there's better chances that they're just going to cut in a new road to go around.
So then that waterfront area could become a really nice park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we need to find out more information about that original proposal, or was it has to be documented somewhere, right?
I agree. Yeah.
And that's an excellent thing to have a little discussion with the county executive about, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny how these little tidbits come up.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was just by chance. I caught them when I was checking meters actually, and started talking about stuff, and he mentioned that, and I was like, that actually kind of helps out our case a little bit.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, as we go along, I think we're going to find more and more little nuggets of
Yeah.
information. It's a long process.
Yep. Yeah. So what do we want to maybe we can do some of these financial ones, and then we'll feel like maybe we can start putting up chunks on the FAQ site. I don't want us to wait until we're totally done. And some of these we have reasonable and answers, including we're in stage 1 of, I don't know, a 28 stage plan. So we envision, or the committee is pursuing, is researching the committee concept. The committee vision is and I think you guys did use the term of, you mentioned private, you said donation. So you said is to seek public funding. Is that public grants?
Yeah. Grants. I think a joint partnership that would allow like public grants, maybe private fundraising to help, but
Mhm.
There's something I want to mention to you guys. This is kind of interesting. It's a little bit of a parallel thing, but I happened to see this article. Maybe some of you guys saw it. You know, this Northern Light publication.
mhm,
You might want to Google this. There's an update on the Birch Bay Library. And I almost think that Terry mentioned something about this, but apparently a family donated their old home, which is a historic home, or sold it to Whatcom County Library System with the intent that they would put the library in that building. And at this point, it looks like the library has made a decision not to do that. So the owners are pretty upset because they wanted to preserve this long-held building in their family. And the reason I'm mentioning it now is the reason why plans had changed is it said that a voter-approved tax initiative won't pass to fund that approach on the project. I mean, that's a really short summary, but they talked about, you know, the impact of the fact that this voter-approved tax initiative didn't succeed. So
mhm,
I think we have to be realistic here in that, yeah, it'd be great if we can fund this entire project with state and maybe even federal grants, but we really don't know. And, you know, when I read that, what was it, the open space plan or whatever, it talked about these local tax mechanisms that are used, like vehicle taxes and this and that.
mhm.
So I think we have a lot of learning to do there, and we don't want to try and we have to be upfront. We don't know, but and we don't even know what the cost and the scope of this project is. So none of us want a tax increase, but somehow this project has to be paid for, and we need to look at examples of how other projects have been funded. You know, projects of this magnitude.
What I want to say there is we have no idea how much it would cost.
Right.
The committee does not have.
That's a further down the road
Mhm.
thing.
But I think I appreciate now, Alan, I think it was you that rephrased
Yes.
Our poll.
Mm-hmm.
The question was, do you support the committee, you know, investigating and pursuing this project?
Mhm.
And that's what we're trying to do.
Yep.
It may turn out, we all decide, wow, we can't fund this thing. So
Yeah.
it's gonna die. Ideal, hopefully not, but the plan is to move forward and figure it out.
As they say, you never know unless you ask.
Right.
And I was thinking about this a little bit too, and I'm just wondering if it would be appropriate to maybe contact that company that built that up and downy dock that we used in our presentation, and just try to get like a ballpark
The swag.
figure. Yeah,
Yeah.
just about how much something like that cost
Well, we
to
also
do.
we have that. We also have that company that sells all that stuff too,
Mhm.
and installs it. So we've got a couple of sources for potential swags on that kind of stuff. I don't think we're ready
I'm
for
not
that
sure
yet.
what a swag is, but okay.
Still silly ass guess.
Oh,
Wild is the
Oh
W.
yeah.
so that's we talked about trying to have interim plans, and that's something that we could do in the meantime, and we haven't quite figured out how we could make that work. but it's possible that yes, we could get some subset of something to solve at least one part of a problem. And
Mhm.
while yes, it'd be great to have the recreation and this and that and the other, if in the end that's just not feasible. But I don't know how to say that we're just trying to begin to scope now the
Mhm.
features, the costs, the what activities could be supported, the limitations.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know, for example, that on these grants that they require matching funds from the county, right? For the county entity.
Mhm.
But how does the county raise those funds? Like, for example, I think in this Birch Bay Library thing, there was a local tax,
Parks District.
or a tax thing that they were proposing, and it got voted down.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we said we don't see this as being a tax on Lummi Island, the county pays for that. Well, the county may, in order to fund this, say we need a local assessment.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't understand all the mechanisms there, but just the little hints that I've read about give me a little bit of pause. And I think we need to understand that better.
Yeah, and they had talked about to help pay for the ferry, forming a local improvement district or a ferry improvement district. And that has been resoundingly, negative by people on the island. And that, that was why that's why they, instead of doing that, they went to the $1 surcharge just to prove that, because that's what people, if you don't have a tax, then you have to come up with it other ways, because for the county to get even their crab grant funding, the county has to say that, we're funding this ferry by this many percentage points. If you look at that's just, never mind, but it is.
This brings up an interesting point, because I think we talked about this or touched on it earlier. And I don't know how this works with a sort of parks and recreational facility, but let's say this is a recreational dock, right? I would be more than happy to pay a usage fee to tie up to that dock. Call it $5.
Yep.
$5 an hour, or whatever it is.
Yep.
And these county docks, like I was talking about earlier, like East Sound, they're free. So if we want two benefits here would be, if there's a usage fee to help pay for this, it also just, if it dissuades people from coming, that addresses another issue on our facts here, right?
Yep.
I don't know how everybody else feels about that. I think Chris would probably agree with me. But it's a small price to pay to help support this thing.
I mean, even as just a non-boat owner, and I don't expect to be on a boat anytime soon, but I do like
Depends how
radio.
fast we get the dock built.
Yeah, right. But I do like radio control stuff, and hell, if I've got to pay a little, if there's a donation box and I put money in it just for that, I would be happy. Because I don't want to go buy a boat.
I think we asked Terry, because I was curious about that when we met. I was surprised. I think she was saying that it was an unusual case for the county to charge. And
Yeah, probably.
I was surprised, because I think one of you guys had mentioned a little while ago having a fee box and such, and I thought,
I think Greg Hall did.
Yeah. Yeah, there's probably some logic behind it. it may be one of those things that since it is public,
Yeah,
they don't, there are people who don't have money that would like to use the facility, so it might be under that kind of a thing,
I get it.
that reasoning.
Mhm. I mean, there's obviously no fee for any of the current.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think even parking, is parking like New Birch Bay, they weren't talking about paying for parking, were they?
Parking is another thing entirely, and
Okay.
that goes over more than than paying for like short-term mortgage. It's a short-term tie-up.
It's more likely to be accepted, is that what you mean?
I think so. I think
Okay.
it just, that's, but I think it would be really something that would not, it would probably go over like a lead balloon, but you know, I was just saying, and when I was talking to or responding to Ed about parking, maybe that could be a source of revenue for the Grange.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But that's on private land.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess we can certainly ask if and find out if San, but you're pretty familiar with the other docks in San Juan Islands, they don't charge.
Most of them just for a short tie-up, no.
yeah.
Still want to go for a road trip.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm getting about ready. We've had some nice days.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Not today.
Not today.
No.
Well,
Okay.
today wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it would have been ugly on the water today.
No, when I said road trip, I meant road.
Oh,
Okay.
we're a boat dock committee, Alan. Come on.
Oh,
No, I'm wanting the Tour de Docks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, because to take a Tour de Docks on in the San Juans, that's going to be pretty spendy by road.
You're right.
So it's a
But,
lot cheaper to take it by boat.
Yeah, but you and I had talked about that, and I'm still jazzed to do that.
yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. You know what I'm thinking, guys? I think there's some of these that it is perfectly legitimate and I think quite true to simply say it is too early to be sure. And if
Mhm.
people say, well, why am I voting on it? You're not. You're not voting on the dock.
No.
What we're doing is the years before discussion about should there be a dock, and let us
Yep.
assume that it would somehow get funded, and let us assume at some point you'd have to consider whether the tax be raised. But let's not talk about it. Let's not. That's great, isn't it?
Right.
Let's not turn down the discussion because you think that one day this might happen.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So maybe we should try to say, and this is a little bit of my concern about a public, any town meeting. I think we do want to try to choose a subset of topics.
Mhm.
Tonight, the discussion is about X and Y and Z.
Yeah, we're aware of these others, but tonight it's this.
Right, let's focus.
Yeah.
Okay. Any particular response? The raise grant is nothing to do with the dock. So do you think we could say that the current plan to pursue the raise grant would not compete?
I don't
Seems
see how
to
it
me.
could.
What was that?
Well, I was going to say, it seems to me that the ferry and the ferry terminal, that's a transportation project. That's public works. That's not
Mhm.
Parks and Rec, or seems separable to me.
It's a different entity.
Yeah.
It's a different entity unless we wanted to really pursue the possibility of, making it so that the passenger only ferry
Mm-hmm.
had a alternative
A backup.
site, a backup site.
So I guess, yeah, that's a good point, and I guess that question.
And
would
I
be-
still think we need to put that forward, you know, with Public Works, you know, that just, I don't know. I'm,
I think that is a good idea to put that forward, and perhaps I don't see that as competing for funds. I see that as complementary.
it's complimentary and yeah,
That's a good word.
because that's also, it's a public safety issue.
Hmm.
I mean, pay me now or pay me later, right? If this
Yeah.
dock can accommodate a passenger ferry, then all of that extra effort goes away in the future.
Yeah.
And that would also open up another site, you know, if we could get on Public Works's good side, it could possibly open up another site that would be closer to where the ferry dock is now. Um, and I don't know,
Yeah, all good points discussed with our cross-county agency meeting.
mhm.
Mhm, mhm. Um,
Boy, we have a lot to talk about with the county executive, don't we?
Well, I think little bits at a time, probably. But,
yeah.
if we talk too much, it just gets blurred altogether.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah, sure. And I realize, you know, probably with a financial, at some point, one of these, I think we probably should say one example of funding for docks. I think we want to go ahead and tell them about the boat facilities grant and say it's from, you know,
Yeah.
Chat, because Lane put in chat about the boating facilities grant. Okay. P whatever it's called. Anyway,
there's the
So-
voting infrastructure grant, the big.
not the big. I don't. I
Yeah.
think that as soon as we start talking about big, people are going to realize that it's for A, big boats. It's for B, overnight.
Mhm,
I think
yeah.
we're not big candidates. I think we are B, the smaller.
Facility, BFG.
Yeah, because
F.
that's what we're really aiming for
F.
anyway.
Boating facilities program. Got it. Yes. There you go.
And I think the other thing would be possibly some hazard mitigation grant money.
Yeah, and you know, I think maybe we'd come back to talking to the fire department about, you know, I think I told you guys we've been looking at buying a boat, and my husband keeps saying, "Well, now here's a landing craft." So I noticed that, you know, it's possible as a corollary that maybe as a shorter term project we could help to point them toward the hazard mitigation. Unfortunately, it doesn't. The bucket seems to be separate enough that they wouldn't pay for part of the dock, put it that way.
Mhm.
Lane, how did you like that boat that Mary sent you to look at?
Oh my heavens, it's hilarious, Chris. Yes, and yes, that's hilarious. So I'm trying to cool his jets. And we need to sit down with you guys pretty soon because we are beginning to think about options. So okay, let's see here. What time is it? Oh, look, one more question. Which one? What question? Should I roll the dice, the question dice, and you guys, or is there one people want to answer? Where will the dock be? How about that?
Well,
we have a
that's-
plan, but did you say that these plans want alternatives?
Alternative, very good point. So the way I think I phrase it is, what are the for opinions about and what are the against opinions about, and then what other sites have been considered.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I think the what are the sites, again, like why not Aston? Those questions we addressed in the presentation. I think we've probably got a decent answer for that. But
Yeah,
to go to grants and say we have more than one possible site, this is one where it just would not surprise me that how are you going to come up with 2 sites on this island, for heaven's sake?
Yeah.
We barely came up with one.
well, we did talk about Aston, which is problematic, and we talked about
Yeah.
Aligo Bay, the old pilings there, which is
Yeah.
not ideal.
Yeah. So I
But-
think, I think we'll I'll pull from the presentation, and I think those will be the alternate sites. You're right. I don't think we have to come up with a whole plan of here's dock A at X, here's dock B at Y. But I
Yeah.
think that is dock A this design or dock B this design. That's where I think we'll need to come up with alternatives, Dave.
Okay, okay.
And 4 positions, yeah, and I think that there's a lot of,
Is upland property, is that the right way to say
Yeah.
that?
yeah, Washington State owns the tidelands, or DNR
DNR.
manages the
DNR.
tidelands.
Manages and what is it? Negotiate a lease or whatever the right.
Yeah,
Yeah, they control the lease of the.
Existing pilings, right? And environmental reclamation, if you want to call it.
Interesting. Okay, we need to get a better sense of that from somebody, but we're guessing.
Yeah.
So yes. Oh, actually, the whole 4 was a dock. A dock existed there for many years,
Mhm.
and actually never got knocked down by a storm. So there you go.
but it did not have a float per se.
No. Oh, is that what usually gets beat up by the storms? You mean?
Yeah,
Oh,
piers can survive storms because the water can go underneath them and
Yeah.
through the pilings and stuff like that. But that's why the ferry dock has the, it's just the pilings, and then they pull the ramp above up high, so it's not, getting beat up.
I get it. Okay.
And the ferry is there, getting bashed around. That's why they have the wing walls to protect it a little bit, and they have actually taken the ferry out at night and set out in Hale Passage
Yep.
to protect the ferry at high tide.
Oh, okay.
That's
Yeah, they did that recently.
that's part of what the crew does. It's to protect the ferry. It's not just to run it too.
Mhm.
But if the winds are bad and they've got to get the boat out of the dock and out into the middle until the tide is low enough for it to be safe again.
With this, this is sort of jumping off to another point here. So this thing, how much of it would be constructed from land, and how much of it would you bring a barge in and use it as a building, like a, like you're going to bring you're not going to bring all the equipment, all of the materials on the ferry. I'm
No.
assuming, right? You're going to bring them on a barge.
No, you'd have a barge and a pile driver.
Mhm.
It would have to be done And you'd have to, it would have to be at a tide high enough that it could do you could have your work platform in there. That's what I would think. I don't think you could just be doing land construction, except for just the bit that goes straight from the beach.
Mhm. Okay.
That's my guess.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys, we answered some questions. That was exciting.
And just to let you know, I'm almost done transcribing into the PDF for you to look at and sample the questions that you sent out already. I haven't done any of the stuff you've been changing.
Oh, okay. Okay, great.
But I'm just doing it as a data set so you can look at how it works and stuff.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay.
And I'm almost done.
Parks and Fair Director. Okay. Well, I don't know if we want to. Oh, it's certainly gotten dark here, hasn't it? I look like I'm in the witness protection program.
Yeah, your camera is also very fuzzy. You need
Yeah.
to-
Is that ridiculous? I mean, that is absolutely puzzling. I have no idea. I mean, my husband and I have exactly the same Mac, and actually his camera's not that great either.
Are you doing a blurred background?
Now that shouldn't affect her.
On purpose?
Yeah,
It looks like somebody smeared Vaseline like the old
over
movie.
your,
Oh, absolutely. I know. I can. No, my camera's sad. Okay, so anyway, I don't know if we want to, if somebody wants to volunteer to take a couple of the other questions while I continue to bring, so we haven't really finished with the questions yet. We have more from the surveys as well as from the letter and the Ed Scott and the folks.
I think an easy one to answer is on the old list, item 24. Could we keep the dock off public maps as a destination activity? No,
No,
Yeah, you're right.
it's uncontrollable.
that will find its way on all the boater guides.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no control.
And it's a
Um,
public park and rec facility, so.
and it'll be on Google Maps.
Yes, it'll be. I mean there
is no way to control that.
no. So that's a definite.
That's an easy answer.
And that's a change your vote to no, you don't want the dock. Basically, I think. Assuming, I mean, maybe they were just like, if I could, it'd be nice, but I didn't really, it's not a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Okay, you crazy kids. Well, maybe I'll send out an email. As I'm answering questions, I'll send out an email and tell you guys which ones I'm answering. If somebody wants to sign up and grab a couple others, feel free.
Okay.
I think we already had
Yeah.
some. I'll certainly take the answers from Ed Scott reply and the Wokus. I can't remember. Is that how you pronounce their name?
Stuart Rich and Lisa Wilkus.
Wokus.
Yeah, yeah, and that one is on the web.
Under the.
It's on the discussion
That's right. That's right. Okay, and I'll
on the, yeah. And I had asked Ed if we could use these and he had never said yes. So he never responded back to me after I sent him that. So
Okay.
I don't know. And
He might not have
Chris-
gotten it.
well, he got it.
Okay, all right. Well, let's talk about that off recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you all.
All right. Good progress.
We will see you next time. Any updates, I will immediately let you know.
Great.
And we'll go from there.
All right.
Okay. Thanks a
got it.
lot, Chris.
Good night.
Thanks. We'll see you guys
Good night,
next
all.
week.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, Lane,
Yes.
I will this evening have a hidden page available
Oh, okay, okay,
for the FAQ, so you could do it like right in it.
okay, that's great.
And it'll be a page we can send the link out to the members
Okay, cool.
before it goes public, type thing.
Okay,
So that'll be, because I've just finished all 27 items already.
awesome.
So I
Okay,
just have to structure it onto a page. So
okay,
it'll be ready. Bye.
great.
And I'll
thank
help
you.
some with the FAQs too. As much as
I'll
I
get more
can.
involved. I'll get more involved with them once they're in the computer.
Okay,
It'll be easier that way. All right.
Hey, you guys.
And
night.
Mary, you'll be sending me the recording, right?
yep,
Bye.
bye.